Thank you for coming, dearly beloved chosen ones of God. The cruelest and most heartbreaking thing about being betrayed is not the knife they stuck in your back. It's the horrible realization that they sold your soul for pennies and were still broke after the deal. Listen carefully, chosen one, because this isn't a story about normal high school hate, jealousy, or gossip. People in your life really thought that your holy energy or life force could be used as money. This is a scary expose of those people. They really believe that if they killed you on the altar of their ambition, whether it was through planned betrayal, constant sabotage, or even dark spiritual dealings, they could finally buy the life of their dreams and climb the ladders they were too weak to build themselves. But here is the holy, tragicomic twist that God Himself wrote. They gave you up, played their cards, and still didn't get anything they wanted. Their last attempt was a total disaster, and now you are live proof of how bad things turned out for them. They only saw money signs when they looked at your light, gifts, and power. They thought you were a prize just waiting to be won, a golden ticket they could steal to get into a country they were never good enough to be in. The plot of their story was full of hellish drama, but the ending is a gem of divine justice. Even though they gave up you, they were still empty on a spiritual, moral, and often financial level. Imagine someone pawning a beautiful, valuable diamond for a few pennies, only to find the next day that the pawn shop had burned down, taking their small payment with it. They were getting more and more poor in every way that really matters the more they tried to make money off of your pain, which makes the whole thing funny and almost ridiculous. It's an awkward but beautiful fact that they made the biggest mistake by giving up you. They were sure that you were the final piece in the plan that would allow them to succeed. But what they really set off was not their success, but their breakdown for all time. Tonight, we're going to get right to the heart of why sacrificing a God-chosen person is the absolute worst thing that can happen and is a sure way to lose. If you read this all the way through, you'll understand why their betrayal didn't get them the success they wanted. It only got them bands that were stronger, colder, and would last longer. 1. They tried to use you as money, but they got your value wrong and killed you. Here is the harsh, basic fact of their mistake. People who are ready to give up others for money, status, or power always think they have found a clever way to get rich, a secret back alley entrance to the palace of prosperity that lets them skip the hard work, honesty, and patience that everyone else has to put in. In their crazy, emotionally empty minds, they thought they could take away your life, your divine soul, and your God-given fate. You were seen by them as a stock to short, a house to flip, or an object that could be taken apart and sold for its parts. These people really thought that by cutting you off, breaking your trust, and joining forces with evil, greedy ones, they could take advantage of your potential and get richer than ever. They were trying to deal in a world they could never understand, which is now the terrible truth they have to face. They were dealing with something valuable that can't be measured by things found on earth. Your worth is not based on money, it comes from God. The market doesn't decide how much you're worth, a promise from heaven does. God wrote your price in the stars a long time ago, before they even knew your name. You can't separate yourself from your permanent purpose, not your short-term profit. Purpose is the one thing that can't be turned into money, no matter how smart, manipulative, or greedy someone is. This is the exact point where their whole evil plan fell apart. They thought that they could treat you like any other product, which was a deadly mistake. They saw something that could be put on an altar, slaughtered, and traded for things when they looked at your gifts, your light, and your very being. But when they moved, when they swung their axe, they were horrified to find that they weren't just swapping a person. They were directly questioning a fate that God had set in stone. And fate never, ever goes for cheap. The beautiful irony is that by trying to make you disposable, they only showed how psychologically empty and pointless their own position really was. People who know their own worth and walk in the faith of who God made them to be don't need to sacrifice others in order to live or grow. People who are truly insecure, emotionally empty, constantly jealous, and hopelessly lazy are the only ones who hold on to the evil belief that someone else's fall is their own rise. Their decision to give up you did not make them look strong or smart. It was a huge bright sign that showed how desperately they needed help. Everyone, seen and unseen, could see that their so-called desire was really just raw, stinky envy dressed up in a cheap suit of strategy. What did they get out of their big trade? Instead of the wealth they wanted, they were given a sense that things were always scarce. Instead of the success they had hoped for, they were met with a huge amount of shame and humiliation. Why? For the simple reason that money made by hurting innocent people never grows. It breaks down. The thing that holds it gets eaten away by it. As soon as they put you on that altar of their greed, they signed away their own downfall as well. That's why their life feels like it's always leaking, no matter what they do. They are able to push doors open, but they don't stay open. The good things they take don't last. It doesn't last with the people they meet. From the moment they tried to take advantage of you, they were bound to the spirit of failure. They thought of you as money. They never once thought about the fact that you were a promise. And a promise is worth a lot. Dear chosen one, you can't give it up. It's not for sale, and there's no way you can fake it. They made a huge mistake in their calculations, and that one mistake will haunt them for a much longer time than any short-term benefit they could have imagined. 2. Their sacrifice wasn't a blessing. It turned out to be a curse. When bad people cross the holy line into betrayal, trickery, or dark spiritual deals, they never see this ultimate, divine comedy coming. There was no way they could have known that giving up on you, planning against your fate, and doing everything they could to get rid of you would make their own lives better. In their dreams, new doors of opportunity would open wide. Gifts and favor would flow to them like a great river, and money would automatically grow in their hands. Because they were spiritually blind, they couldn't see that anything built on a base of destruction is poisonous in and of itself. It's not possible to hurt someone who is doing what God wants them to do and then expect a pure and sweet prize. That's not how the universe's spiritual rules work, which don't change. It is against the balance of life, which is controlled by a fair God. Because of this, every benefit they tried to get from your pain is now forever tainted. If they were able to get you a raise by working against you, you would be under a lot of stress, suspicion, and fear of being found out. What if they got some money for their bad deeds? It would be gone faster than they can count because they would spend it on unforeseen problems, court issues, and emergencies. If they thought their relationships or social standing would get better, those ties are now weak, unstable, and built on sands of lying to each other. On the very surface, something that looks like success has already gone bad. That is the main reason they can't enjoy what they've won. It's cursed. It's spoiled. They made a bad deal. They gave up their inner peace for a chance to make money in the outside world. The worst part is that they didn't even make any money in the end. They got a deep and long-lasting loss that looked like a short-term gain. Let's look into this truth more. What happens with a sacrifice depends on the spiritual force and purpose behind it. Because their intentions were based on greed, envy, and hate, the gain they were so looking forward to turned out to be a reflection of their own dark hearts. Damage showed up in their own lives. They weren't making more money. They were making more empty space. They were not making a kingdom. Instead, they were preparing to die. They thought that your fall would make them rise, but it only showed them the weak, unhealthy base on which their whole lives were built. There was no lightning bolt from heaven that brought the curse. They set it off when they chose to sell out what was holy. That's why they're so antsy right now. But they are never, ever happy because they are always looking for the next thing, the next high, or the next approval. That's why their money disappears no matter how much they get. Why do they always feel like bad things are going to happen? They can't quite put their feelings into words, but they can always feel it. Because they know the truth deep down when they are alone with their broken souls and it is quiet. What they got wasn't real. It wasn't real wealth. It was just a wicked image in their own desert that fades away as they get closer. The curse is that when they sacrificed you, they lost more than just a chance to make money. Their way was lost. It's like they lost their honesty, their peace, and their link to God. They will always carry that loss and moral stain with them. Anything that is based on killing a chosen one will never, ever stand. They wanted to make money, but all they got was ruin. 3. They bet against God and with your life. I have taken away all the planned layers from what they did and given you the raw, honest truth. Ignoring the obvious, they thought they were being smart when they decided to take you out of the picture so they could get ahead. It seemed like a simple game of chances and risk-reward to them. They thought that if you were gone, everything they wanted, the status, the money, and the recognition, would just fall into their laps. But what their haughty and narrow minds didn't understand is that betting against someone God has chosen, blessed, and will protect is the riskiest bet anyone can ever make. You're not rolling dice at a gambling table, where luck plays a part in the result. What will happen has already been written when God is concerned. In the courts of heaven, it was sealed, decided, and made official. No amount of human plotting, evil trickery, or cowardly betrayal can ever change something that has been sealed by divine, royal power. They were so full of themselves that they thought you were useless, like a piece on their own personal game that they could get rid of to get ahead. They really didn't understand how important it is that your life is not chance. It has a purpose, and a purpose set by God can't be changed by people. They thought you were a normal person, so they fought you. They were so blind that they didn't see that they were fighting the one who made you and everything else. And this is exactly where their huge bet totally fell apart. God never loses. At any time, everything they planned, every talk they had in secret, and every evil attempt to erase you and your fate was doomed from the start. They weren't just messing with you. They were messing with the one who writes fate. Everyone can now see clearly what terrible things happened because of that stupid bet. They thought they were going to win big, but now they're left with nothing and a lot of mental debt. They thought that by changing things, they could get what they wanted, but every move they made showed how crooked, weak, and spiritually bad they were. It's like a game that's been fixed. They thought they had marked the cards, paid the officials, and stacked the deck against you. But as soon as the hand was dealt, they looked up and were scared to see that the dealer was God, who had already made sure they would never win. That's why their lives look so shaky and disorganized right now. Because they were brave enough to go against the natural order of the world, nothing feels safe or solid. The proof is clear, even if they don't say it out loud or put on a brave face. They can't seem to keep things under control. They have to pry open doors that won't stay open. The success they do achieve is short-lived and never lasts. That is the punishment from God for betting against something you can't change. They were proud to think they were risking your life, but what they were really doing was risking their own happiness, peace, and hearts. The part that hurts them the most and keeps them up at night is that you made it through. You're still here, walking, breathing, getting up, and going toward your goal. The fact that you are still alive is the best proof that they lost the bet before it even started. They put everything they had on destroying you and got nothing in return, because it has never been profitable to bet against God. Welcome to God Connection. Our community is built on this message of divine protection and ultimate justice. If these truths strike a chord with you, if you feel the power of God affirming your journey through these words, then I invite you to become a permanent part of this family. Click the subscribe button right now to become a part of a global group of chosen people who are living confidently in their holy mission. Also, if you feel moved to support this mission and help us make more material that encourages and strengthens people like you, please think about planting a faith seed. To give $10, click the Super Thanks button right below this movie. We need your help to get this strong message of hope and truth to people around the world who need it so badly. For they wanted to get rich quickly, but they ended up being poor forever. This is the beautiful, heartbreaking comedy of their whole failed plan. They were sure that if they could just give up you, hurt you, betray you, and get rid of you, then wealth and success would flood into their lives like a huge flood. They were crazy about the idea of shortcuts. It was important to them to get money, fame, and results quickly. They didn't want to go through the holy process of growth, patience, and hard work. But they are now learning the hard way that all shortcuts have huge, hidden costs, and the price they paid in the end was much higher than anything they got in the short term. The quick wealth they were able to grab were only brief and fragile. They started to break down as soon as they touched them. It is a moral law that wealth that is built on dishonesty can never last. They might have gotten a few extra coins, a moment of attention from dishonest people, and maybe even a little success in the material world for a short time. But if you look past the shiny surface, you'll see that nothing of it lasts. The money you make by being bad disappears like the air in the morning. An image that was built on lies and betrayal will finally fall apart under the weight of its own lies. They either don't know or won't accept that they gave up long-term, lasting, family security for a cheap, short-lived thrill. Long-term, they not only lost all of their money, but they also lost their faith, their morals, and future generations. What they thought was a smart way to get rich turned out to be a curse that will follow them and their children and grandchildren everywhere they go. When you hurt other people to get ahead, you pay more than just your own peace of mind. This is a harsh truth that most people don't want to face. Your kids and their kids will have to pay off that moral loan. That's what it means to be poor forever. The state of the soul is more important than the amount of money in the bank. It's about going through life without real happiness. It has to do with having a name that people talk about and discuss, but never really honor. It's about leaving a heritage that dies before it even starts. The poverty they caused can't be measured in money. It can only be measured in the huge, painful void in their hearts that can never be filled by money, things, or success in this world. They are upset, confused, and annoyed because they can't seem to hold on to anything good. The answer shows up in the mirror as they look at themselves. In exchange for quick satisfaction, they gave up their honor. They picked the way to get rich quickly, but that kept them from entering the land of true, lasting wealth. The world, which is based on God's rules, does not bless desire that is really greed. God doesn't give more money to people who do bad things like murder, envy, or betrayal. The things they gained are already going back to being nothing, and the things they lost, like their soul, can never be brought back. They will always be poor because it was never about the money. The soul was always at the center. And once someone sells their soul for so little, they can't get it back. 5. Their sacrifice showed how small they were. This truth cuts them right to the heart. They were stupid enough to think that by putting you down, they would somehow get better. They really thought that taking you out of the picture would be the best proof of how strong and better they were. But, in a shocking turn of events planned by God Himself, what they did had the opposite effect. Their attack on you showed everyone how weak, scared, and empty they really are. Giving up you was never, ever a show of power. It was an attempt to hide a deep and crippling weakness. Someone who doesn't have any real substance, gifts from God, or skills that they've worked hard for can only think of winning by hurting someone who has all of those things in abundance. That action alone shows weakness, not strength. It's the move of people who are mentally empty. When they decided to go after you, they unintentionally showed how spiritually bankrupt they were. The world saw that they had nothing good about themselves they could stand on. They didn't try to make their own light. They tried to put out yours. They planned to leave their own mark, but instead they tried to destroy yours. Someone who is powerful would not act that way. That's what someone does when they feel scared and threatened by a power they don't have and never will have. Their attack on you was never proof of how strong they were. It was clear proof that they were afraid of how strong you were. The cruel, unarguable truth is that people who think that killing someone else is the only way to succeed are already failing horribly. They are thinking in terms of lack instead of excess. If they were really strong, they would be focused on beating their own potential and growth, not on your life. They shouldn't be trying to destroy your kingdom if they were really powerful. They should be busy building their own. Their cowardly choice, on the other hand, showed them to be weak, shallow, and deeply nervous people. They had the chance to strive for greatness the right way, which was through discipline, patience, and honesty. They chose the weak option of betrayal instead, showing everyone, even God, that they were never ready for real, long-lasting success. Even worse for them, the mask of their success always falls off in the end. For a while, they might act like they're doing well. They could talk about their wins on Facebook or Twitter, but the dark, parasite force that made them do what they did still exists. It's clear to everyone. Spirits that are smart can see it. People can tell when their claimed accomplishments aren't what they seem to be. That's why their wins don't make people respect them. They make people suspicious. The world will eventually realize that the chair they so badly wanted to sit on is not built on a stable base of their own making, but on stolen and broken pieces of what they tried to steal from you. In that case, their sacrifice did show them. They didn't win, they were liars. Not as stars, but as cheap copies. They thought that giving up you would make them better, but it only showed them in stunning high definition how small they have always been. Real power doesn't need to kill other people to stay alive. People with small minds and weak wills are the only ones who believe in that sad way of surviving. Now, how small they are speaks louder than any lie they ever told about how great they were. The reason God Connection exists is to help people find out their divine worth and the spiritual rules that protect them. This is more than just a channel. It's a safe place for the chosen and a place where spiritual fighters can train. If this message speaks to you, please click this subscribe button right now to become a part of our growing family. We can build a strong group with your help. Please use this super thanks button to leave a $10 gift if you feel driven to give back and plant seeds in this mission. Your donation is a strong act of faith that helps us keep telling chosen people around the world this truth that will change their lives. Thanks for being an important part of this work. Let's move on to the last reason why their sad sacrifice was doomed to fail. This is a sketch of where the rest of the expanded points would go. I'll now write the last line with the call to action. The last, unchangeable truth. All of their evil plans, cowardly betrayals, and desperate sacrifices only revealed the one truth they were trying so hard to hide. They thought they could steal your God-given light, turn a holy being into money, and change fate to suit their own evil will. They bet against God, gave up their honor for a short-lived fantasy, and tried to make money off of something that was never theirs to claim. They did everything they could to hurt you, shut you up, or erase you, but it only made their own weakness, emptiness, and crippling fear grow stronger. The money they were so eager to get has turned to dust in their hands. The places they wanted have only shown how hollow they really were, and the complicated plans they made have turned out to be beautiful, shining proofs of their epic failure. In the meantime, you have stayed strong, untouchable, precious, and placed by God. Not only were you escaping their attacks, you were rising above them and letting God use every attack as a strong lesson for everyone to see. Every act of betrayal against you proved beyond a doubt how valuable you are. Every sacrifice that was meant to hurt you turned into a harsh warning to others and a loud declaration of how powerful you are. The gates they tried to shut in your face are now the ones that only let you in. The wealth they wanted is now forever linked to your rise. And the altar they built to destroy you turned into a holy mirror that will always show them to be dishonest. This is the very truth, chosen one. You can't be taken, changed, or killed. Their mistakes, curses, and nothingness are just shadows cast by your bright light that keeps getting brighter. They gave up you to get something, but they got nothing in return because divine favor and true fate can never be bought or avoided. They can only live. It's not goods that you are a promise. You're not a thing, you're a heritage. People like you are living proof that what God plants and anoints can't be broken by small, selfish hands. You woke up because of their loss. Their desperation became your proof. Their failure proved what you already knew. As you keep rising, every effort they ever made to hurt you will always show that nothing can touch what is divinely protected. Even though they did it out of spite, their spite only helped your cause. The sacrifice they made was never really yours in any way. It was theirs, and it failed horribly. You made it. You were getting better. And their loss will always be the greatest proof of how valuable, powerful, and unbeatable you are. If this word from God Connection spoke to you deeply, don't hide it from your family. Click the subscribe button right now to become an important part of this growing global group of chosen people who know their worth and walk in divine truth without any apologies. Please like this movie so that it can be shown to other people who really need to hear this message of hope and justice. Also, please leave a review below. Tell me what you think, tell me your story, or even make your statement public. Your voice is strong, and this is important. And please share this movie with someone who has been through hard times and needs to be informed of how valuable they are. Today, you never know whose soul you might help and strengthen. It takes a lot of people to make this message of light go further and shine brighter than any attack could ever be. Have a great day.